So today feels like it should be Tuesday since the second day we're here, but it's Wednesday, so I'm off all week. Uh, anyway, oh no, Paul's is in my ears. Notice I got earbuds in. He's working remotely, so he's in the remote controlled director's production booth.
I'm
It's really
here
weird.
with you.
So
You
only
can
in
see me
electronic
now.
spirit. Yes, we
I
can
know,
see you
you
now,
can see
Paul.
me.
It's very
I'm here.
scary. It's
The
painfully
only time I can get on camera
painful.
is when I do it from home.
That's a blessing, Paul, for everybody here who gets to see you. So anyway,
I'm
gonna
here
talk about
to help you,
public.
Kent.
Yeah, it's
You
absolutely.
said you needed a little help today, so I'm here to help you.
Well, I said I'm going to be talking about public outreach and executing it. And Annie wrote on the storyline, doing public outreach from your backyard, which
From
would
your
be
own backyard.
from your own backyard, which means to me, the area that's fenced in behind your house, so people are going to not be public in your backyard.
It's not a literal statement.
Words have meaning, Annie.
It's
You
not
can't.
a literal. It's a southern term.
I understand
Oh
you're
my
using
gosh.
backyard as your region, but you don't do public outreach in your own backyard unless you
Tool
invite all
time.
the neighbors
Remember that?
over for a fish fry.
What if your own backyard is 60 acres or more?
If nobody lives there, you're not
Tool
doing public.
time.
You can't
You
get to
can
it. It's not
invite people there.
Tim the Tool Time Taylor.
You can invite people
Yeah.
there.
That's
You're the
not
guy.
public outreach. That's a party.
He's standing in the
Yeah,
fence
it is.
doing public outreach from his backyard.
You're telling me that those people that live in condominiums and invite their neighbors over onto their balconies to look at the stars, that's not public outreach.
That's not their backyard. That's their public balcony that faces
That
out over
is
the
their own backyard because it's a balcony on
public
their house.
outreach. To me means
This is
going
what
where
I go
people
through
are.
every day.
Public outreach means going down
we
to
argue about semantics.
this is an argument of semantics. I'm sorry. Backyard means your yard and the behind your house.
It's because you used to be a newspaper reporter.
I'm just saying,
You're
words.
very particular.
I
Words
worked
have
in
meaning.
TV news, and I didn't
Where
have
words-
a problem with it.
Where words do not have meaning. TV news. Words do not have
I got 7
meaning.
AP awards. How many do you got?
Right?
I never counted them, but I'm going to say, over 100. And if you throw the
Nice.
Associated
I only
Press
did it
Names
for
and
5
Editors
years,
Association,
but I do have an Emmy.
You don't get Emmys or Opies or
I know.
Cupies in the newspaper business.
Mm-hmm.
Opies? Is it Opie the
Emmy,
guy?
baby.
All right, so here we go. Public outreach. By it, I mean going to where the people are and setting up a telescope and say, hey, y'all want to look through my telescope. Go down if you're having a community festival. Go down and set up your telescope. Obviously you need to be dressed for the occasion and not look like, a bum. You're going to be putting the telescope looking at. You need to have at least some knowledge of what it is, even if it's just like, hey, this is Jupiter, and knowing which what the moons are. You may need to know the name, but know a little bit about, they're going around. And if you only see 3, that means that one of them is either in front of or behind. And if you look at ones that are really close to the planet, you can actually see them moving over just a matter of minutes. You can see those things are actually moving. That's what I love. Right now is a great time in the evening to go out and do public outreach. The weather's cooling off. If it's a clear night, set up where the people are. Go to a baseball field. Go to a community square. Find a place to set up where there's people and offer to show them Saturn. Offer to show them the moon. Offer to show them Jupiter. You want to see, if you get 100 people look through your telescope, one of them is probably going to have an emotional reaction to looking through your telescope. It is a vastly enjoyable experience. And when people look through a telescope and see the rings of Saturn for the first time, it can be a very emotional experience. So Harold Locke points out Pulitzers for publishing. Yes, Harold, but there are no state Pulitzers for publishing. That's a global award. And, if you win a Pulitzer, you've done something pretty darn Pulitzerly. I made up a word there. And
but words mean meaning. Words have meaning.
Pulitzer.
Yeah, words have meaning, Kent.
But words have meaning. You can't just make up your own words.
Sure you can. You make up words. No one knows what they mean.
Why can't I just take a backyard and say that this is from your old backyard? That's the whole point of the slang term.
Look up backyard and tell me what the first and second definitions are. We know what they're going to say. They're not going to say the wider area in your region.
Does Harold have a Pulitzer?
Harold does not have a Pulitzer. I would bet a nickel on. So I don't even know anybody. I don't think I've ever met anybody who's won a Pulitzer. Might have. Don't remember it. But anyway, public outreach. Get out there and do it. So, Harold, have you ever done any public outreach? Anybody else out there? Give me your public outreach stories or what you like about it. What do I like about it? I just like people looking at the telescope and seeing the wonder, or hearing the wonder if you're at a place where it's fairly dark, and just listening to them when they see it. Oh my goodness, or whatever. Harold does not have a Pulitzer. Mike Wiesner jumps in. Hi all. Cynthil Nagapan. Hi everyone. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us. And Mike, give me an outreach story. I know that you've done some outreach. We're talking about outreach. I'm trying to encourage people to get out there and do it. If you're a member of if your club is a member of the Astronomical League and you're a member of the Astronomical League, or you're an at-large member of the Astronomical League, there are actually outreach awards you can do. You have to just document it, follow the rules, turn it in, and you can get an outreach award. I believe there's 3 stages of outreach that you can get. One of them is Master Outreach, or I believe is how it's annotated. Annie's grinning, so she's found the 30-second definition to support her argument.
Lacking professional training.
What?
Backyard is lacking professional training.
That's the first definition.
You said.
I said the first 2.
Second.
I said the first 2 definitions.
And you didn't say if it had to be a noun or an adjective.
Backyard, adjective.
She's got you on that one.
No, because we're talking about
a noun.
In your backyard.
It literally says that backyard means lacking professional training.
That's not the definition. It's not the definition
I don't know
of how we're using it.
Dictionary.
Cynthil, so outreach awards are from the Astronomical League. She's using the crazy dictionary online.
No, he's asking you, can you get awards from the Astronomical League?
No, I'm talking about you using some crazy online dictionary.
It's Webster.
Okay.
He's going to look at it. He cannot stand.
Yes, Cynthil. Definition.
Kent's not going to let this stand.
You didn't clarify if it had to be a noun or an adjective.
Backyard, a yard behind a house or other building.
Yes, that's a noun.
Mm-hmm.
Typically surrounded by a fence.
Definition.
That's a noun.
A tree-shaded succession of backyards. The area close to where one lives, or the territory close to a particular country regarding with proprietary concern. Anything with preferable to a nuclear dump in your own backyard.
Those are all nouns.
Come on. Adjective, Kent.
I'm just looking at this first thing that came up.
I know, I'm picking on you.
I know she is. Definition of backyard. This is Merriam-Webster, merriam-webster.com. The rear of a house, a nearby neighborhood is the section. Adjective, location or occurring in a backyard, a backyard barbecue. And then lacking professional training, amateur. Site usage is like a back like a shade tree mechanic, potentially the backyard
I'm just
mechanic.
trying to get at you.
Words have
I go
meaning.
through this every day
Find this out tomorrow whenever
for
we have
hours on
Oh, so
end.
a showdown.
we're gonna have some fun tomorrow. Is it tomorrow or Friday?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow's Thursday.
Tomorrow's Thursday.
We're gonna have some fun tomorrow because we're gonna have a game show, and it's gonna be Tyler versus Kent on questions about astronomy,
All kinds of things.
Annie-
Astrophotography, astronomy.
Annie is going to try and salt the mind for Tyler because she gave him a quiz, I guess, on Friday, and he did rather lackluster, from my understanding. However, can't do that.
Well, you didn't take the whole thing.
Okay, ask me another question real quick off the test that we haven't. I've not seen these before. I didn't watch the show.
Would you last 15 seconds in a spacesuit? Would you last 15 seconds in space without a spacesuit?
I think the definition of last is the going concern here. Would you be dead in 15 seconds? I think that you would last about 15 seconds. So I will say yes.
Mm-hmm. There's no pressure in space. Air expands. This means the air inside your lungs would expand and
Right.
tear through.
Right. It would be an unpleasant ending.
Kent,
So Paul.
there was this controversial trial in the 90s
Scopes monkey
where
trial?
they argued for months about the definition of what the word is.
I agree with that. We've had that long discussions. Is can have multiple.
And
has
I must
multiple
point out
meanings.
No, we turned into the
that it was
dictionary.
just as absurd then as it is today. Just saying.
It's
It also depends
that's
on
the
what country
problem.
you're in.
Depends on what can as well. All right, Annie, what's your next one?
Is it impossible to become a space outlaw?
Is it impossible to become a space outlaw? Well, there's no laws in space, although the UN has promulgated some rules and regulations. So I'm going to say, is it impossible to become a space outlaw? No, I believe it's possible to become branded a space outlaw.
Yes, you're correct. There are special space laws governed by the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs to make sure that space doesn't become a war zone and a nuclear test site.
Is that all your questions?
No, that was a bonus round.
Oh, we have a comment up on the screen. I have to have
Let's
the
see.
definition of backyard up. Comment up on the screen. During a partial solar eclipse several years ago when I lived in California, I set up a telescope on a street by a local park. Several people came by to look.
That's cool.
Astro for Dummies says, I think Tyler's going to be sick tomorrow, implied, I think.
What day is he
Ha, ha,
not? Which day
ha.
is he actually here? Oh, wait, did I say that wrong?
So, yeah, you said loud enough for, you think he's going to call in sick every day? He has to have the quiz, huh? That'll be interesting to see if that happens. Astro for Dummies. So yeah, Mike, it's always enjoyable. You know, you set a telescope up and people are going to come. Russia and China have already become space outlaws. Yeah, effectively, Mike, because they have intentionally collided. Both have intentionally collided satellites to prove they have the capability to be hunter killers. And my theory has always been the easiest way to disrupt things in space would simply be. Oh, Tyler came in.
Because he heard what I said.
Tyler came in. Yeah, Tyler just walked in. So they become. If you wanted to disrupt something, you don't have to blow up their satellites. You just have to have a micro satellite go up and park next to it, and when time comes, just sort of go up and attach to it somehow with like a magnet, and then fire your thrusters and just send it tumbling. You don't have to blow it in smithereens. You can just
So
disrupt its orbital mechanics, and you've
so
succeeded.
Kent,
But yes, Paul.
shotgun. All you need is about I don't know, 50,000 BBs, and just boom. The skin is so thin on those satellites. You should take
No,
them
you
all
don't have
down.
to. You don't even have to shoot them. You could just literally bump them out of the way, and they
Mm.
have
Well,
thrusters.
if
But as
you're
long as you keep thrustering,
so
you
they're going
provide force.
17,000 miles an hour, and if you put up a bunch of space junk like bearings, and it's only going 12,000 miles an hour,
Yeah, but you've
it will
also
technically hit them at multiple thousands of miles an hour, which will knock anything out of space. And they only
actually
need
it
to
won't
stay in orbit
actually
like 10 minutes.
actually it won't knock them out of space, Paul. What's going to happen is it's going to create a massive global, yeah, a massive low Earth orbit debris field that lasts for decades potentially. And that's the problem when the Russians collide a couple of satellites. I don't know, it's been a decade ago now, and the Chinese have done it as well. They create thousands and thousands of pieces of space junk that slowly drift out of their existing orbits through solar heating on one side causes them to move, becomes a propulsive force, but they're in a high enough orbit that they're outside the microgravity or microatmosphere, and there's no drag on them. So they just drift around and they become this giant blob. And there's actually, I've seen animations of how those collisions promulgated and encircled the Earth after a certain period of time. Um, and Synthil says, after knocking them out, you still create space junk if you blow them to pieces. Annie, I want to know if you take your telescope to the sidewalk outside your house and people come by, is that public outreach? Absolutely, that would be public outreach.
What's the difference?
You're in your front yard where they can see you in a public place.
They can still see you in a public place.
Could you
Your
be in the
backyards,
backyard?
most people's backyards are not public spaces.
Most people's backyards here in Northwest Arkansas don't always have fences.
No, but they're still not public space where a lot of people are going to see
Why
them.
not? People
Whereas
drive through
the sidewalk in front of your house, everybody who drives by is going to see you and stop. Which
If you
happened
show
one
up
time.
in
We
my
were doing,
backyard with a telescope, it's not going to end well, especially if I don't know who you are. Just
well,
saying.
yeah, exactly. So we were doing a star party at a state park, Prairie Grove Battlefield State Park, and we had some telescopes set up, and there was a family drove by, and the girl was like, there was a huge telescope, and they kept going on the road, and she complained and begged enough. The parents turned around, pulled into the park, and she literally could have only seen the telescope. It was, I think, a 16-inch Meade light bridge. And, it was 150 yards off the road, but just caught a glimpse of it and knew what it was. And she was like 6 or 7. And her parents, bless them, listened to her and turned around and came back. And they were there for a couple of hours. They didn't really have anything else to do. And they hung out simply because their daughter saw a telescope way off the road at the park. And we had a great evening. And there was a bunch of people who showed up that night. What are you laughing at, Annie?
Tyler.
Is Tyler commenting, texting you?
Yes.
Yeah. So give me another question there.
You want another question? Okay.
Yeah.
This is just like not true or false. You have to answer it. Okay. Is outer space empty?
No. It may be very, very, very not dense, but it is not empty.
You are very good because that's very true because it contains a low density of particles like clouds of interstellar dust, space
Right.
plasma, and cosmic rays.
Right.
So it is not.
It's not empty.
Most people
It's
think it's
very
empty.
sparse. Good question, Annie. I think about it because I have better skies at the top of my driveway.
Stick
Yeah.
that sucker out there, Harold, and have people stop by.
They'll do it. You go someplace where there'll be people pull over and stop. Yeah, space is not empty. I mean, otherwise, that's what interstellar dust is. And that interstellar dust, which is out there in space, is exactly what the James Webb Space Telescope is designed to look right through. Because amazingly, Interstellar dust particles are about the wavelength of light, which of visible light, which means they block almost all visible light, but they don't block infrared light because the wavelength is a different size. So the James Webb Space Telescope looks through all that interstellar dust that's out there in empty space. Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of like fog. Like if you drive through fog, it would help you be able to look through that even.
Look right through it. Well,
That's
I don't.
crazy.
Well, there are wavelengths of light that look right through fog. That doesn't exist for that light. Okay, Mike Wiesner. 4 scientific and local amateur astronomers are doing public outreach star parties at Oracle, Arizona later this month. That's right. The Arizona Dark Sky Star Party is September 21 through 25 at Oracle, Arizona. And we're going to be at Oracle State Park, but the community has embraced massively embraced this. There's 4 restaurants. They're going to have sidewalk astronomy on Friday night. Yes, Friday night. And they're going to have music and food, and it's going to be a great time. We're going to be at 4 different locations. Astronomy clubs from Tucson and the region of Arizona are going to be providing telescopes. One of our dealers, Starizona, is going to be there supporting the outreach and telescopes. It's going to be a great time. Still time to join. It's close. If you can make it your way to Tucson, Arizona, and up to the hour and a half up north to Oracle, it is going to be very, very dark up there. For more information, go to our website and search for Arizona Dark Sky. It'll pop up in that search bar. You can go to it, you can get registered and show up and come. Going to be a great time. We have some birding walks. We have a bat as in a flying mammal event. We're going to have some new night vision, heat night vision that we're going to have set up over a water hole in the park, and going to be checking out what comes up to the water hole after dark. That's going to be pretty cool. Looking forward to it, and we're going to be taking advantage of the Bortle One Dark Skies around Oracle that for doing astronomy Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. So, going to be a great time. Oh, Mike Wiesner says it's 45 minutes from Oracle to Tucson, not an hour and a half that I said. So if any would have asked me that question, I would have gotten it wrong, but she didn't ask me that question.
That's not a space question.
Sure it is. There's space between Oracle and there's wide open spaces between Oracle and Tucson.
Wait, we've entered the dad joke.
Yep, the dad joke zone. All right, so what else do we want to talk about?
Why does space appear black?
Because there's no light.
The phenomenon is known as Albers Paradox, named after the German astronomer Heinrich Wilhelm Albers. He said the universe is infinite.
She's more fun away.
Then everywhere you look should eventually hit a star. It turns out the universe is neither static nor timeless. Edwin Hubble discovered that the universe is expanding, and thermal radiation left over from the Big Bang because the universe at 13.8 billion years.
Okay, the answer is it's black because there's no light because of time and space.
Because time and light now eventually.
Right.
So in essence, eventually the sky will be completely.
Eventually, the sky will become eventually black for people.
Completely light.
Completely.
It's black right now because the light not all the stars have. The light has reached us.
And it's not going to because of interstellar dust. That's the problem.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. All right. So anyway, questions. So Annie's going to throw in some astrophotography questions for Tyler. Try and throw him some bones. So hoping he might answer a few questions. So the loser buys Annie and I lunch.
Yes, and I told Tyler that we get to choose. I told him we were going to a steakhouse.
Notice how I framed that answer. Who's the loser will buy Annie and I lunch.
Actually, Tyler, you better.
I've got a question.
It actually should be Annie and me lunch.
I've got a question.
Question? Okay.
What about the Artemis? What's going on with that?
What's going on with Artemis 1? Has a leaky seal in the hydrogen system. O-rings, if you remember, the Columbia uh, space shuttle was caused by a faulty O-ring that got cold and contracted and blew the space shuttle to smithereens. They don't want that to have that happen or something similar, or have an engine failure during takeoff that doesn't destroy it, but it can't reach orbit, and then they have to, eject through the capsule abort launch system where it rockets it off the top of the rocket, and then the chute's deploying it, and it comes back to Earth. Uh, they don't want to do that. NASA is a very cautious, totally risk averse organization. And that's why they have the successes that they have. Did they have two shuttles with catastrophic failures? Yes. And that happened even though they're risk averse. And those things made them even more risk averse to certain things. And so, that awareness, and the whole goal is to not lose these $1 billion machines and the people who are in those $1 billion machines. You learn from your mistakes, and then NASA's good at that process. Uh, you know, um, every plane crash the military has, there's a board of review simply to learn what the mistakes were. When they had a cabin fire in Apollo, was it Apollo 1, Apollo 3, whichever it was, where three astronauts died in a oxygen fueled fire. You know, hindsight being 2020, it's really easy to say, gee, maybe you shouldn't fill a capsule with pure oxygen, which is flammable, and then have switches in there that throw sparks. That could be a bad idea. And we lost three astronauts because of it. Some people hate the idea of losing any astronauts and don't think we should do it because, um, life is too valuable. My answer to that is the people who climb on those rockets know the exact risks they're taking, and they're willing to take those risks. Um, and I've said this fairly recently, just like the people who climbed aboard Columbus's boats, or Magellan's, or Drake's, or the Indian moguls who sailed off, you know, exploring and never returned. All cultures have those. There were Vikings who sailed off and never returned, and they didn't land in North America. They didn't land anywhere. Their boats sank, or like Captain Cook, they were killed on an island somewhere. It's part of the innate risk of the human endeavor to explore. Sooner or later, somebody has got to set foot on things to really understand what's going on. For instance, somebody looking down into a crater on the moon that has never seen light of day. Comment coming up. The light of day will discover more in a few minutes than rovers could do in weeks, months, and years. Uh, they hope to fix it on the launch pad. Somebody said that's exactly right, but a rollback takes time and effort, and they want to get it right. And caution is the better part. Who is?
My mama.
Oh, Annie's mom was watching. Hi, Mama. How are you doing? Give you a shout out. What's her name?
Linda.
Hey, Linda. Glad to have you join us today. Mike Wiesner was an Air Force jet fighter pilot. Flew the A-7 back in the early 70s. He served on an accident investigation board. Interesting experience. I'll bet it was. Harold Locke noted, I'll bet it was meticulous, Mike, in triplicate. I suspect that's the case. You draw conclusions, and the whole point is not to lay blame, but to figure out what happened and try and develop a procedure that keeps it from happening again. That, businesses that are good, with systems, find out what caused the mistake and fix it, and then keep it. And Mama said, Hi back. Thank
Oh.
you very much, Mama. Nice to talk to you.
So Dr. Barth is going to talk about that on his Monday show.
Dr. Barth, Dr. Daniel Barth, who has.
How do you know?
Uh, we're working on changing the name of the show because it keeps getting
You think because of the
policy violations based on the name. Currently, it's named How Do You Know? So we're talking about changing the name to something else because trying to see if that causes the Amazon
Yeah, on Amazon
live policy
for
violation.
some reason on Amazon they keep popping us because I guess it's the name of a movie, and
Yeah. So
they may actually
so
have
we're
the
gonna
copyright on it because they usually do copyright the movie names. So
yes,
there it
but
is.
yeah, and then hey, every time, like right now, if Paul popped up a photo of the moon, there's 2 or 3 different organizations that will claim the rights to that image because there was some album back in the 70s that had a picture of the moon on it, and they claim the rights to it, saying it's and every single time Paul or I has to go through and challenge it, and after a week or two they come back and says UMG released their copyright claim on blah, and it's like I want to start a company and go file copyright claims every time they use a picture of that album and claim copyright on it because I took a picture of the moon, and they're, every picture of the moon of a full moon is going to look like a picture of a full moon. It's just the way it is. Yet they claim copyright on it every single time. So anyway,
The show is on Monday at 4.
Monday at 4, Dr. Barth will be talking about Artemis. I haven't seen his show notes yet. Have you seen them?
I've seen them already.
Yeah. So he's going to be talking about what, Annie? The review process?
What's wrong with it?
What's wrong with it?
It just says what's wrong with it, with Artemis.
And there's nothing wrong with it. It's a very technical situation, and it's just got to be fixed because, you want the program to go off without a hitch. And, people are like, well, they just need to launch it. Well, and if it blows up, that puts the entire program back years and years. It's better to take time and take a few months to get it right and then launch the rocket and have everything go off without blowing to smithereens. There's no lives involved, but certainly a lot of effort involved in getting that rocket up in space. And the things that we'll learn with anywhere between a 35 and 45-day mission. And we talked about this a little bit last week, I believe, that depending on when it launches determines how many days the mission is, because orbital mechanics change, and so they have to, depending on the launch windows, the mission time gets longer or shorter. And then when an Artemis 3 happens and we actually go to the moon, that launch window they go off on actually determines where they're going to land on the south polar region. And there's different sites that are good for different launch windows. And so depending on when they launch will determine where they're going to actually land and investigate the permanently shadowed craters to literally find out how much water is really down in there.
So are all of the other countries, or like even like Elon Musk, are they that meticulous with their calculations and things like that? I mean, are they pretty particular like NASA is?
If you go back and look at Starship, down at Boca Chica in Texas, every one of those is blown up. I mean, nearly every one. Go back and look how many times SpaceX tried to recapture their booster rockets and have them self land on ships, and they blew up or landed in the ocean or fell over. They're willing to take iterative steps to solve those problems. And their approach is launch it, crash it, and figure out what happened and learn from it. And, make the programming better, make the artificial intelligence and the guidance systems that get those back on those ships. Get those programs down. And
well, I mean, it sounds like even even if they think and they don't do the testing like NASA does, that even that there's a possibility, like if NASA just sent up this drone, even though there's not people on it, there's a potential of it still hurting.
Okay, I don't like the term drone. It's not a drone. It's a remotely controlled vehicle.
Well, whatever.
I mean, yeah, it's yeah.
But you know what I'm saying. I mean, it still has the potential of hurting somebody if it blew up, if it crashed.
Nah, if it blows up on the launch pad, there's nobody going to get hurt. There's nobody close enough. I mean,
but if it takes off and it crashes
in the ocean, there's downrange. The danger zone downrange could part of it get up and come down over a populated zone. That's why they launch exactly where they do, to eliminate, to mitigate that potential of something large coming down in a populated country. Yeah, but it could always happen. I mean, there could be somebody 800, 900 miles downrange, 1,000 miles downrange out in the Atlantic Ocean, sailing along, and all of a sudden, something comes down and smacks into their boat and sinks the boat. Sure, it's possible, but it's a big ocean.
I've seen a launch off of a beach side, not even remotely close to the launch pad, and it lit up the sky like day, and you actually could feel the ground rumble from it. I mean, it's the
power. They say the power of these rockets, these massive, Artemis and Saturn V rockets, that the sound would kill you within a certain number of feet or miles. The sound would destroy your body. The sound is, a lot of people, when it launches, you see this gigantic cloud of what you think of as smoke come up. It's steam, because they're dumping millions of gallons of water into the launch channel to dampen the sound and try to absorb the sound. And what happens when that sound runs into the water? What does it do? It boils the water and turns it to steam. So they're removing energy from the sound. Pure sound waves are vaporizing the water, turning it into steam. And so that's a cool thing.
That is cool.
Yeah, but you'll see that massive steam cloud come up. It's steam, and they're trying to dampen the sound. Dampen the sound with water.
There's another dad joke. So how far away?
I'm not sure I got that one.
Is the command center from the launch pad?
Say again.
How far away is the command center?
It's a long ways. I've taken the tour. And it's a long ways, miles and miles.
Not just like 3 or 4 miles, but like
it's 3 or 4 miles. Yeah. We have Connor Bradley.
What?
Is it true that the Earth's atmosphere extends to the moon?
No.
I'm guessing here. I'm gonna say no. Is there some tenuous measure of earthly oxygen and hydrogen that are drifting away from Earth? Possibly, but are they within the Earth's atmosphere? No, I'm not going to go that way.
No, there's no way. They couldn't possibly work.
There's also people think we can build what we call a Dyson elevator or something, and
Dyson sphere.
No, there's there's a Dyson sphere, but there's also like a Dyson elevator or something, and not named after the vacuum cleaner or the vacuum cleaner manufacturer, inventor, builder, whatever, that you can make an elevator go to the moon as well. Yeah, that's not going to work either.
I love those theoretical. It's moving. It would just twist around the Earth.
It would burn up the atmosphere. You'd have to figure out how to not to.
Oh, but we can do it. Hey, science fiction pushes science fact.
Talk about boiling.
I still don't think we're going to be able to cover the universe with a warp field. It's just too far away. It's too much distance.
If this high in physics, wormholes and warping the fabric of time, and it's way above my head. Multiverse, where you can jump from one infinity to another infinity, and they're okay. And you can watch Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about there's different sizes of infinities. And I saw this, I don't know, recently.
Hang on a minute. That doesn't make any sense at all. You can't have a size of infinity, because infinity is a never-ending size.
Pie goes on forever, right?
It does?
Okay.
I wish it really did.
Pie does. I wish apple pie and cherry pie and pumpkin pie went on forever,
No,
but they don't.
you
They're
get
seasonal.
diabetes after a while.
It's a hard concept to understand, and I had to watch it a couple of times, and I didn't watch it enough to be able to expound eloquent on it. But you pick an irrational number, and that irrational number goes on forever, and decimal fractions, go on forever. They all fill up an infinite amount of space, but they're different sizes because the numbers are different.
No,
Something like that.
the individual numbers are different, but that's has nothing to do with the end of the math. That's the size of the letters and
So
numbers.
Swoobo says, yes, you can. The real numbers are larger than naturals. So they're different sizes of infinity. I mean, how can an infinitely large universe exist next to an infinitely large universe? I know it's mind blowing. You know, it's.
I can understand how they exist next to each other because
Why? They're
if
both
they're
infinitely
slightly out
large.
of phase or a different, time space thing, they're on a different wavelength of matter, and they're. I make sense, but but if it's all the same, no, you can't. No, it can't do in multiple infinities of infinity of infinity of
Okay,
infinities.
I'm going to go back and find the Neil deGrasse Tyson and
he must have
fully try and embrace in trying to embrace his explanation so I can explain it. So Mike Wiesner wants Explore Scientific to develop a warp field stem product line. Probably won't be available this Christmas. No, Mike, probably.
We're still working on the app version.
Yeah, we're still working on the app. That's a sore point, Paul. We're not going to talk about. So anyway, so what do y'all want to talk about? Outreach. This started out as outreach and turned into all sorts of fun stuff. Go out there and do some outreach. And you know what? You get questions like this, literally questions just like this when you do public outreach. And I've gotten to the point that I'm fine saying, I don't know, or here's my understanding, but I'm feeble-minded and I'm not a cosmologist. I'm not a theoretical physicist. I can't tell you. I don't know. You'll get questions. Do you believe in God? That's a question you have to prepare to answer yourself. You'll get a question. Do you believe in aliens? Well, how do you define aliens? Do you believe we're alone in the universe? There's rational explanations. There's billions of stars around billions and billions of galaxies. And if just 1/10 of 1% of those stars contain a planet that's in the Goldilocks zone, and if only 1/10 of 1% of those have conditions that are good for life, you're still talking about an astoundingly large number of planets. And statistically, some of them are going to have some form of life. But it's possible we're alone. But it's possible that we are alone. I bet lightning will be good to see from the ISS. Can lightning leave the atmosphere? There are things called red sprites that are lightning that goes up into the far reaches of the atmosphere. But I don't believe lightning can. My guess is lightning does not leave the atmosphere. There's pictures. There's pictures of lightning from the ISS.
Is there really?
Yeah, there's pictures of thunderstorms. They're going over, and you see thunderstorms lighting up. Yeah, so very cool. Very cool pictures.
It's got to follow. It's got to have ions and electrons and whatnot to charge and pass through. If there's
Yeah,
if it demonstrably drops, then the charge would drop and the lightning would just stop,
but
right?
at the same time, you could theoretically beam power through space
Right.
like a
But
laser. A
lightning
laser is
is a
power.
slightly different, wouldn't you
Yeah,
think?
but yeah,
Than
but
just
there
beaming
are
power.
pictures.
That's a
But
different.
there are pictures of you can find if you use your favorite search engine, you can find videos of lightning storms from ISS. From 345 miles,
Yeah.
up, and the storms, 8 miles up or 10 miles up. It's pretty cool to see that
You'd have to
lightning
have the
storms.
charge, the negative and the positive would have to be, I mean, you'd have to have a connection all the way up into
Yeah,
space
look
to
look
get it
up
that far.
search
And
search
I don't know.
search the term red sprites. There's not a lot of science on them. Still, a lot of research being done into these things called red sprites, and there's other lightning-like phenomena that go up into the far reaches of the atmosphere as well. Dr. Barr's Dr. Barr's book Star Mentor covers a lot of the subject. Is to be prepared for when everyone starts asking questions you might not know. Yes, it does. And his book, Star Mentor book, is available. On Amazon. I believe we have them available here as well. Fantastic book. I started reading it a couple of times and have just set it down. Somebody, comes by and asks me something, or I get home and have to go out and feed the horses, or put the chickens up, or eat supper, and I just haven't forced myself to do that. But Dr. Barr's book, Star Mentor, is a fantastic book, and you know sometimes it's just I'm here to talk about astronomy. I don't want to get into a debate over religion and science, because the whole point is to not offend people. And sometimes it happens and you don't want to do that because you want everybody to embrace looking through the telescope and seeing what they're seeing. Um, I can't explain everything, you know, there's phenomena out there I can't explain. I like to rationally come up with an idea with a rational answer from my perspective. But again, you get back to relativity. If I'm on a horse riding along at a good gallop and I'm tossing a steel ball up and down, that ball's going straight up and coming straight down until you stand over there and watch the ball make a parabola. So it's all perspective and where you're looking from. Your perspective causes you to believe things that, for instance, from our perspective, the earth is not rotating. The sky is rotating. And that leads people to fall into the flat earth trap. And, it is what it is. All right. So, unless it is not what it is not. Connor Bradley, the lightning must be more violent on Jupiter. Wouldn't like to be near Jupiter. Connor, it'd be pretty cool to be near Jupiter, but not in Jupiter's clouds. That would probably be a not cool place. But it'd be pretty cool to be close to Jupiter and see it up close and then survive it and come home. Tyler Bowman just walked in. He's looking at me going, yeah, it would be cool. Take a really close up picture of the Great Red Spot. But that's what probes are for. So ask Tyler a question. Oh, you already asked them all.
I asked him to see if he could answer one of them from
Okay.
last week.
Okay, Tyler's off screen. He's getting a question.
A year on Venus is shorter than a day there.
A year on Venus is shorter than a day on Venus.
Yes.
He remembered.
He remembered, and he says,
Venus is a lot quicker, slower.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Because it's so far out.
It's got a bigger rotation than the rest of us.
Wait a minute. Venus is close in. Yeah, it's very slow turning. It rotates on its axis
Venus
slowly.
spins very slowly in the opposite direction of Earth, 243 Earth
So it's
days
going
for a
backwards
full
in time.
rotation, but it only takes 225 days to go around the sun because it is so close to it. Therefore, a year on Venus is shorter than a day.
This is going backwards in time.
And it's turning backwards in relationship to Earth's Annie. So it's going backwards in time because things that turn backwards go backwards in time.
Can we go there so we can become young again?
It's too late for you.
I think this is what's called bad science. Bad science.
I like how Tyler said it was too late for me. You're getting to my age. You're getting to my age.
Herlock says if you think you have an opinion, that's true, but sometimes it's better to keep our belly buttons to ourselves. And it's just
Did Ab-
some things.
So,
Huh?
Kent, how do you like
Okay.
having me here with you?
I'll say the politically correct answer because you're here. It's great. No, it's all right, Paul. It's good. So
No, I'm on
here, real
camera
quick.
with you. I'm never on camera with
Yeah,
you.
it's different. It's different for sure. So
Is that a problem?
Swobo has
You get a problem with that,
Paul-
Kent?
You got a problem. All right.
You got a problem?
Swobo, what are simple ways to demonstrate that the Earth is round? One example I know is the sailing ships that disappear gradually from the bottom up under the horizon when sailing away. That's exactly right. That's a great example of when it's sailing away. It sails off. If it was just flat, it would just keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller until it disappeared out of sight. But that's not what happens. The boat disappears, but the mast is still there, and the mast keeps getting lower and lower and lower. But you have to have people who are willing to recognize that, Swobo. Some people just can't do it. Here's a way Dr. Barth has. How do you prove the moon is round, okay, and not flat? Because you can make an argument the moon looks flat, and you can prove it by taking a ball and some, we'll say, or beer caps, caps off of beer bottles, and taping them around the equator of the ball, right? And so when you look at the cap that's right here, it looks round. But one that's right here looks oval or oblong. One here, you can barely see it. And one back here, it's just barely there and looks like a straight line. The same thing happens on the moon. If you look at the moon and find a crater that's obviously a round crater, well, you can extrapolate what's that crater going to look like as the crater gets along the edge of the visual surface of the moon. It's going to change shape, and you can find round craters that have changed shape apparently because we're looking at them at a different angle. That's one easy way to prove the moon is round with a simple, easy observation. Or you could do what Eratosthenes did. He measured a well at the equator at a specific time when the sun was straight overhead, and the well was illuminated all the way to the bottom, and he had at the same time measured the angle of the sunlight going into the well at a known distance away, and he calculated the circumference of the Earth, I don't know, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, whatever it was, to within like 10%, under 10% of the actual value of the size of the Earth. Why? Because it's pretty simple math once you know a couple of things. And Carl Sagan has a thing where he has a piece of cardboard, and if it's flat, the shadows from the sun all cast the same way. But if you turn it into a circle, the shadows cast in different directions based on where the sun is. That can be proven on Earth as well. The direction the shadows go changes as you move across the curvature, the roundness of the Earth. 5 minutes left to go. Swobo, that's an interesting question. Thought experiments, some people are good at and some people aren't. And Dr. Barth's books have some fantastic, easy to explain scientific principles and facts in there. And I've said this in the recent past. I think there's people want scientific facts to be concrete and permanent, and science is innately is intrinsically about change. For instance, if science didn't change, the Earth would still be the center of the universe. But science changed, and it's going to change again. And our position, we used to be think, well, we're at the center of the Milky Way. Well, we're on just a typical arm off in the just a random area of the galaxy, and we're in a random part of the universe. And people want science to be a fact, to be solid, to be stable, and science by nature is going to change as new things are discovered. Just like we went from an Earth centric to everything revolved around the sun to look, um, those things Galileo saw, those are going around Jupiter. Copernican, Galilean, Newtonian, everything changes. So anyway, I think it may be about time. Meow Me says, hi all. Well, hello, Meow Me. Is that Paul? Is it Meow Me Paul?
No,
Oh, okay.
we're just noticing Paul making funny faces over here in this cubicle.
I think it looked like he was voguing over there.
Yeah.
He was doing the Egyptian dance.
You're right, Ken.
That's difficult.
I was trying to
do,
get
Paul.
people to giggle and laugh off screen.
Oh, I'm on
Not
screen.
on screen.
What?
I'm
Can't.
on screen.
That's different.
Yeah, I know. So, anyway, all right. An interesting random walk show. Y'all, look, y'all have a passion for astronomy. Go take your telescope out this weekend. So show somebody Jupiter and Saturn. It's going to be a pretty close to full moon. It's going to be bright, but put some power. Go to the Terminator line and show people the moon. Let them see the moon, Jupiter and Saturn. Find where people are going to be and go there. Let people experience something out there with your telescope, and they're going to have a fantastic experience. Harold Locke, great point. What I learned in grade and high school changed by the time I went to college, and now it's changed even more. Science is about change. Life is about change. 2,000 years ago, life was just a little different. Clean water was non-existent. Drugs didn't exist. Heck, you remember, we've only known that the Milky Way wasn't the entire universe for less than 100 years. 100 years ago, people still thought the Milky Way was the universe. And things like the Andromeda Nebula were inside the Milky Way until we found out they're not. And suddenly the universe got a lot bigger, and our backyard became something much larger than we thought it was. Meow Me, nope, I don't think so. Egyptian dance, I like also. I'm from Bavaria. Don't know what that one thing is. Oh, pretzels. Pretzels and beer, absolutely. Didn't see you for a long time. Meow Me, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you jumping into the conversation.
Did
That's
somebody
what these
say
shows
pretzels
are
and
all
beer?
about. Meow Me
Pretzels and
said
beer?
pretzels and beer. Looks like a big salt covered mustard pretzel is what it looks like. That got me thinking about pretzels now. Anyway, time to go ahead and shut down the conversation. We have wandered a lot of strange places today, but it's been fun to do. Anyway, on behalf of Paul Newton, over in the remote control control booth, and Annie, who's been sitting here tormenting me the entire time, and Tyler Bowman, who just left for no apparent reason.
He got mad.
Oh, he got mad. Annie made him mad, or Paul made him mad. One or the other.
I made him mad.
Annie made him mad. Good for Annie. We try hard to make
We do try.
Tyler
I don't
mad.
care if I made him
All
mad.
right. Harold Block, a final comment from Harold. The James Webb is blowing all our minds in infrared. Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see what the next 3, 4, 5 years holds for what comes from the James Webb Space Telescope. With that, I am going to, okay, last comment. This is from Harold again. Yeah, hunger. Hunger has changed a lot in the past 2,000 years, most assuredly. So anyway, with that, I'm going to get out of here and go get some supper. I'm Kent Marks for Explore Scientific. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock with On the Wing. And then Annie will be having a game show with Tyler and I as the featured contestants. Anyway, thanks for watching. Everybody have a great day, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.